Hi, I'm Noah Brandwine, an IT support technician here at Quiver River Electric Cooperative, and you're listening to Plugged In.
This is Plugged In. I'm Mary Wilson along with Rod Smirker and our guests today, Quiver Journey linemen Rodney Braddy and Jacob Tiefenthaler. In mid-January, while Missouri was settling into winter, Rodney and Jake were boarding a plane for a mission unlike any other. They traded the Midwest cold for the sweltering heat of Jamaica, not for a vacation, but to answer a call for help. After Hurricane Melissa devastated 75% of the island's power grid this past October, the Jamaica Public Service Company contacted NRECA, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, requesting assistance. NRECA's international program usually focuses on first-time electrification in developing countries, but this was different. This was about getting the power back on. For nearly a month, Rodney and Jake worked alongside other Missouri linemen and local crews to rebuild what the storm had destroyed. Today we're talking with them about the sweat, the challenging Caribbean terrain, and the incredible people they met along the way. Okay, well, welcome, Rodney and Jacob. We're happy to have you both here. For the listeners who may not be familiar, the NRECA International Program, along with state associations like AMEC here in Missouri, do a great job with getting crews where they're needed. In the past, Quiver has sent linemen to Haiti and the Sudan to help with bringing electricity to places that never had it. But this trip was about restoring power. So let's start with you, Jacob. Is this the first time you've participated in the international program?
The international program, yes. The hurricane restoration, I've done that before. This would be about the fifth hurricane I've been on now. But this one brought some new challenges.
And what was it about the opportunity that made you want to do it?
I've always wanted to help others and assist overseas, or in Bolivia and Haiti and Guatemala, all these other places. I've always had a calling to help others and see how other people live and see what their communities are like and their culture.
Awesome. And Rodney, what about you?
Yes, this is the first international trip that I've gone on with doing line work. It was a great experience overall, just being with them there and getting to see how they live, getting to see how they do things there. As far as hurricane work, it was the devastation. Well, I've seen that before. This is the seventh hurricane that I've worked, but I've never. This is the first one I've ever gone to as far as international. And being from the East Coast, it was more the hurricanes just came to us, so it was a little bit different. It was definitely eye opening, and wanting to go was I just felt a need. Like when Doug got to talking to us about it, it just felt like I wanted to go and just to get some perspective too. I think sometimes we can get a little complacent in first world countries, and as beautiful as Jamaica is, it is a third world country. So I mean, it's definitely, you get to see some stuff that they don't show you on the Travel Channel.
Now, when you first arrived and you saw the damage, Rodney, how did it compare to some of the other storms that you've worked?
Well, as far as the devastation, the down trees, the things like that, that was pretty standard. But the vegetation that we dealt with was actually fairly new, because the ocean came so far inward that it killed everything. It killed banana trees. It killed the fields where they grew plants. It did a lot of stuff that like you could tell, like a lot of it was brown and there was fresh green coming out of it because it was starting to regrow. And so that was pretty interesting to see and to talk to some of the locals about that had lost that. But then the homes, like we've experienced on hurricanes, where you see people living with other family members or whatever, but some of these homes, 3 out of the 4 walls were fallen in, and they literally had a tarp with a whole family living under the corner of what was left of a home. So that was definitely something to experience.
Yeah, I'll second what Rodney said. Obviously there's not much for building codes in Jamaica, So where we were at was, out in the country, and it was all just small little huts. So most of them were just completely destroyed. And I think the 3 little kids we fed right there, kind of the city square, we gave them their
Yeah.
breakfast. Um, I thought they were sitting at like a bus stop. They were dressed in school clothes, and I thought they were at a bus stop. And later on, we figured out it was their house. And it was 3 sheets of plywood wide by 2 sheets of plywood.
Yeah, no door. I mean, that really was. We thought, like you said, like you see like some of the bus stops we have around here where it's 3 walls, and that just to keep them out of the rain, that's where they live. They'd pull their little chairs out in the morning and they'd sit outside, and we got to sit and talk with them a little bit and feed them, and so that's where they lived.
Mm-hmm.
Now, gentlemen, the terrain that you actually worked on or within on the island of Jamaica, you had to deal with tropical heat since you're close to the equator. I mean, obviously it's wintertime here right now. How did that change your workflow, or did it? Rodney, do you want to start with that?
Sure. Going from winter in Missouri to winter in Jamaica was pretty hard. Those first 2 or 3 days, it took all of us a little bit to get acclimated to that heat, especially when you pretty much get thrown right into the fire, and so it was definitely the terrain. I mean, there were some areas we were definitely in co-op territory. I mean, there were perfectly good fields with miles of line built through the middle of them.
So the density was pretty low
Well,
for a mile of line.
So when we finally got to get off the road, that was where the terrain changed a lot. But there were some areas where we worked right in town, and I mean, it is congested. They drive on the left side of the road, and they drive 70 everywhere. Like, I mean, it's like a race. It's wild, blowing horns. I mean, just yelling. I mean, Jake breaks running on dump trucks the whole time. Like it's it's something.
Now, Jacob, did you find any challenges with the terrain and the heat and the weather?
The terrain we had wasn't terrible. We were next to a road for the most part, so we didn't have to deal with hills. We were next to a swamp, so we also got all the humidity off of that, which, I think the first few days was hitting 94 when we were there. So that was rough on everybody. But then, what about day 3 or 4 probably? I think everybody kind of got used to it and was just annoyed because every time you looked down, the sweat would just drip off your hard hat right through your eyes. But the terrain wasn't terrible. We had everything from sand to rock.
Now, regarding teamwork, you were there with other workers from other co-ops in the state. They also had the local crews, Jamaican crews. How were you able to handle any gaps in communication, or were there any kind of different techniques while working that
So their local language is called Patois. Does that sound right? Which is, I actually had to look it up. It's a version of European, Spanish, and I forget. It's a mix of languages. However, we had a truck driver, and he just had a single cab pickup truck, hauled our tools around for us, and he was local. And if we couldn't understand somebody, he'd say, "Hey, Chris, come here." And then he would help us out. And so he was a big help, just with communication and, teaching us about the local, what do you call it, the local culture, I guess you'd call it.
Mm-hmm.
do you have anything to add on that, Rodney? That any situation you can recall that maybe where language was a bit of a problem, or something that the work crews would do a little differently than what maybe you thought needed to be done?
Well, they're definitely, we got told on on numerous occasions, no, 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 in third world country. So, we were able to, we had to adjust to that. And so there were things that we'd done where that we, reframe polls or whatever it was, to what they wanted done. And it was kind of like, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul on certain ones just so stuff didn't fall off the pole. And, you're dealing with really big wire and things like that. But the language barrier was different. And we would actually go back to our hotel in the evening, and the manager of the hotel, we would talk to her about it, and she would tell us, oh, this is what they're saying. And this is what, and it was, it was along the same lines that Chris, our helper was telling us. But yeah, it was different, and you'd catch like every third word. You'd be like, okay, that was English. I got that one. So it was definitely an adjustment. We let Craig do most of the the talking. So
And that'd be Craig Mueller
yeah,
from the statewide.
from the
who's kind of
statewide.
the-
Oh, he was
the head of
the
the-
linchpin. And if we didn't have him, we might still be down there right now.
I guess he works with NRECA International to
Yeah, he
line
he
everything
was
up, and he was kind of-
coordinating everything. I mean, he did it from making sure we had shelter to making sure we had something to drink to whatever we needed. He facilitated it, and I mean, you'd have thought he was a local.
I think he struggled with a lot of that too, because we had trouble getting our lunches the first week we were there. I think
Yeah,
we worked till 4 o'clock or so before we actually got lunch, and
yeah,
he was making phone calls and trying to figure out, what's going on here. Why are we not getting fed today? And
yeah. Or we'd run out of water. They'd be like, "Oh, you guys needed more water." I mean, we were going through 3 or 4 cases of water, a day. Trying to, do it. But I mean, they were like, "Why are you guys drinking so much water?" Like, I don't know. Like, we're not used to this. I mean, we did come up with the coconut thing. Jake drilled a hole in the side of a coconut. We drank with that. So
Ingenuity work.
yeah, third world country.
Now, I know I saw you at the airport the morning you left, and I know you took a lot of tools with you because you had to pack your own bags, and everybody had bags of tools and carts and everything. And the larger equipment, I know there was a Canadian contractor that had recently shipped a large amount of trucks. I don't
170.
And those arrived just before you got there, I
Yep.
believe,
Yep.
in early January.
Yep. And they passed us on the road while we were climbing poles.
So otherwise, did you have much access to equipment like that, trucks, or were they pretty much the ones that put the poles in and you followed up and put the lines up?
we had a old dilapidated, apparently it came from Miami without an engine, just an old junk, worn out, parts welded back on a backhoe. And that is what we did. Rolled all our wire out with after about the third day.
Mm-hmm.
First few days, we just rolled a 3,000-pound reel of wire down the road ourselves, just by hand, rolling it down and watching traffic. And then we'd roll it back and then roll it down again. But that was the only real piece of equipment we had. Other than that, it was just us and hand tools.
And I mean, it was one of those things like Jake was saying after that third day, like when we got into it, it was like, boys, if we got 3 weeks of this is gonna be hard. I mean, you're flipping that 3,000-pound reel over and rolling it down the road, and it's a lot, yeah. And then you gotta, once you get the wire there, then you're climbing it and you're putting it up, and I mean, it's no small wire. It's it's 394 MCM tree wire, so I mean, it's a pretty good diameter and it's heavy. It's super coated, but yeah, without that backhoe, as dilapidated as it was, it saved us because we were able to rig it up to become a wire reel. So we used a chain and an old ratchet strap we found, and eventually the ratchet strap broke, so we had to go find another chain. But we were able to do that. But this thing I think Jake put a piece of rebar through one of his pins that was coming out. Like, I mean, it was just one of those things. Like it helped us, but it was on its last leg, and that was his good one. Like that, he had 5, but that was his good one. Yes, it was by a local guy who was also a great guy. Yeah, his name was Oral. Yeah.
Yeah, think about that third day, we got him to help us.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was, I mean, when we had that, then, I mean, all of us, morale went up, and we all felt like we could take on the world just not having to fight that reel
Oh yeah.
all day again, and then climb the poles. And
Yeah, it was definitely a game changer when he'd show up, and one of the barriers too is they live on island time. Like, you can't get in a hurry, like where we're used to hitting it and stuff. We may be doing stuff by hand until they show up. And one of the things he would say would be like, "Man, you're supposed to be here at 8:30. Where you at?" And he would just say, "I'm here now." I'm like, that's all. That was it. Like, there was no explanation. It was just, "I'm here now."
Well, Jacob, were there any particular moments or experiences that stand out for you while you were there?
the kids, I didn't see a single kid's toy there at all. No, and I don't know, did you, Rodney? I never saw. The only kid I really saw that was playing had an old broken dresser. The house had fallen in, and it was just chunks of concrete and debris. And this dresser he was using as a slide, just going back and forth on this. And he had 2 license plates. I don't know where he got the license plates, but he was folding them and throwing that like a Frisbee. And then they're all just covered in smiles. Had no toys, had nothing in the world. Most didn't even have a roof over their head, but they were just nothing but smiles. So it kind of makes me feel like, with my kids, they got toys and they got stuff, and you take for granted where true happiness actually comes from.
Sure. Well, and speaking of kids, so we were watching your progress through Jim McCarty's photos, the official photographer with AMEC, and I can't help but mention the photo of you holding this beautiful Jamaican baby that probably went viral on social, and you could hear the collective awe as everybody saw it. But beyond that, with the relationship that you had to build with the Jamaican community, how did they all react when you first arrived?
Oh, they were super appreciative, just of all, just anybody that would come and help. And as many as the Greystone trucks that they had that were there, I mean, they were still excited to see more people show up. And I mean, there was a lot of people there working in different areas. We crossed paths with them a few times, but they were just, I mean, just the appreciation it's just unreal. I don't think I've ever experienced just unhindered appreciation. It was amazing. And then when they saw the work that we were doing, like there would be crowds that would come and watch us. Like there would be people on the street, and people would stop and want to take pictures with us. And it was very humbling, to see how appreciative and how much these people were willing to give, and they had nothing. I mean, their whole lives were upside down.
Well, we even had a few locals, don't even know their names, just walking down the street as we're dragging this wire off. They'd grab it and they'd walk with us and just start helping. Had no idea what they were doing. They just knew we were doing this. And so, I think everybody there was willing to help. And, we had nothing but support from the locals.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had the little boy that showed up there with us, NJ. I mean, he was pulling hand lines with us. He wanted to be part of what we were doing, so we let him get on the end where we would hold all the weight, and he'd want to, just be part of what we were doing. And because he wanted to help he not only just to be there with us, but he said, I want to get my neighbor's power back. And I was like, wow, man, just
Future line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they asked if he would go to work for JPS, and he was like, I don't know, so, but he said, I want to work with you guys.
That's awesome.
Next question, I wonder about just overall the morale of the line crew while you're working. I know, as we've talked about the weather and the temperatures, etc. But I mean, after a while, I would think that has to wear on you a little bit. When you start getting exhausted. I mean, were there any ways that you would keep the morale up to just keep on going?
Have you ever heard of the Clydesdale rule? You know what I'm referring to? So one Clydesdale, they say, can pull like 8,000 pounds, but 2 Clydesdales working in unison can pull like 30,000 pounds. So the team fed off of each other, and I really don't believe morale was ever really an issue. We fed off each other. We were such a great team. If I could pick a crew to work with all day, every day, it'd be those guys right there. We really worked together well, had a lot of great ideas, and we had to. I mean, the chain we were talking about holding our reel of wire up only had 1 hook on it. So we had to tie a knot in a chain, which in U.S. you never do that, but we did it there, day in and day out.
Mm-hmm. And it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. I second that, wholeheartedly. That there were times that when we'd hit our stride, and you didn't even have to speak. It was just, you just worked. You'd go, and we would these guys would come, and they'd climb this pole, and they'd do what they needed to do, and they'd come, somebody would run the hand line for them, and then they'd leapfrog, go 2 poles down, start another one, and then where they'd drop their stuff and they'd double back, and they would pull the hand line for these guys. And I mean, it was nobody ever asked another person to do something. It just, you saw something that needed to be done, and we know what we're doing, so we just did it. And like Jake said, as hard as the work was, I never had a bad day.
Not once.
Fair. Yeah.
When it was time for the group to come back to Missouri, what do you think the overall state of their electric system was on the island compared to when you arrived? Could you maybe tell at that point, or was it?
I would
still-
like to know how many miles of line we worked on. The Canadians worked in small areas, and we worked in other areas, all on the same stretch.
Mhm.
I bet it was between 7 and 10 miles.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
And that
pretty
was-
accurate.
putting up the primary and then coming back. They didn't have the wire and material was short. And we come back later and we put up the neutral. And then they finally got their service wire, and we come back on a lot of the same poles and put more wire back up.
I know there was 2 or 3 of them. I climbed the same pole like 5 times.
Yeah.
Like it just, but that's how they had it. They were literally robbing Peter to pay Paul in a lot of places. There was the one where we started off in the field where they had abandoned a dead end pole where we were gonna, they had set the new one. We had already framed the new one. And so we literally went over there and cut a pole down and just stole equipment off of it. Like we took bolts and everything we needed just to get through what we needed to get through, and so it was definitely,
I'd say on average, each guy climbed 5 poles a day. If we'd been building brand new line in a straight line,
oh yeah.
5 poles a day. Some of them we did have 2 guys climbing them when
Mhm.
it first started.
Yeah.
Times 8 guys. I mean, your average, I'd say your average mile would have 25 poles in it.
Yeah.
I mean, we did 20 miles of line. You're 500 and some poles that we climbed between all of us. And
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely, just doing the work like that was, and seeing, like, we did get to see it energized. We did get to see that main stretch of line energized, but they were in the process of putting transformers up. So while the main line was hot, the primary was all energized. There's so much secondary work there. I mean, people are their own electricians. They've got, they're doing their own thing, trying to get prepared for JPS to come back and hook up their houses or whatever. But we left, so we were in Black River, which is ground zero. That's where the eye came on, and that's where we worked. But when we left there, we were all pretty excited to know that was, and then on the way back up Montego Bay, what they referred to as the last mile, there's just miles of nothing where it was all just still down. And they had crews working from Black River towards Montego and Montego back towards Black River, just trying to get that up. So along with that comes the secondary work, comes all the transformers, so I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done.
well, and we drove like crazy because that's the only way the bus drivers drive
Yeah.
for an hour and a half or 2 hours and
Mhm.
saw nothing but poles laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Nobody even working. It was just
Yeah. No, not a
pole
cold
after pole on the ground, but concrete poles were laid over, barely in the ground still. So I think one of the most exciting things was probably Chris when he finally got our truck driver, when he finally got his power.
Yeah.
We joked about it when we first got there. Hey, it'd be cool if Chris lives right here. It'd be cool if we got his power back on. And I think it was 2 days before we left, he finally got power back on.
Yeah, we all got to go. A few of us got to go over there and make sure he was ready to get power, to hook his service back up, make all the connections for him. And I went in and actually took apart his meter or his panel inside of his house because water had gotten through into it. And so a couple of guys went up on the roof and we sealed that hole, because when they build a house, they build with a possibility of adding a second story on. And this is a concrete building, so there's rebar sticking up out of the sides and all that. Well, they had a pipe to be able to run wire up to the second story. Well, that's just an open hole, so it poured water. So we got to go and make sure he was all set up, and yeah, he got power back, and that was.
And he called us on the bus ride back.
Yeah.
They called it current. He says, "I have current, man."
I have current. Yeah. He was so excited.
Yeah.
So he was living in his living room, because his bedroom was the only place that had air conditioning and all that, and it was missing windows, and so it was definitely nice to see him get, because he helped us out. He was a lifesaver for us for sure.
Now, when you look at the overall experience, does it change your perspective on any of the work you do here for Quiver members, do you think?
We are a lot more efficient working here with the equipment and with the tools, and 'cause we do use a lot of specialized equipment. And if we'd had half the equipment we needed, we could have built 50 miles of line down there. And we don't have the material issues. I'm sure all their material, poles and everything, has to come over on a barge. We're fortunate, we just call a truck and a truck can deliver it. So we don't have the delays in getting everything here. But I'd say our members are fairly spoiled. They may not think it, but they're fairly spoiled because, these people have been off since October 28th, and a lot of them didn't think they'd ever get power back on. And here, we have, in the U.S., we had the ice storm, what was it, about 8 days, I think, which is very unfortunate. But at the same time, you look over here, these people have been going months without anything.
What they lacked in, whether it was monetary means, whether it was materialistic, stuff, whether it was actual material or just having things like these people made up for tenfold in spirit. I mean, it was, you're out of power for 3 months, and it's wild, So, but they were just smiles. They were so excited. They were so excited to see. All they want to know is how we were doing. I mean, it was incredible. I'd go back tomorrow for sure. It was just amazing. It really was.
Well, what is the one thing, especially now after having done the work that you've done in Jamaica, what do you think is the one thing that you want people to know about what it takes to restore power after a storm that they might not see from the road?
Patience.
Lots of patience.
Lots of patience.
Yep, because even, and I'm sure you've seen it, over on the East Coast, normal hurricanes, I say normal, hurricanes in the U.S., you still have supply issues. You still can't get wire where you need it. You can't get the poles. You can't get transformers. So just because you see a truck doesn't mean that they're not trying to do something. They're probably, most likely they're waiting on something. Being over there really opens your eyes to how much devastation we could see potentially, because that's the most damage I've ever seen in my life. And like I said, I've been on 5 hurricanes, and they've been big. It's not little ones; they've been big ones, and I've never seen the devastation like I did there.
Yeah, that was, the largest hurricane in their history. Sustained wind. The largest wind gust was like 250 something miles an hour. It was just incredible. And not only that, but the storm surge. You're surrounded by ocean, and it coming in that way, it pulled so much seawater that when we went into the heart of Black River, where JPS's yard was, it looked like drive-through car washes, rows of buildings with no front or back, where the ocean just came through and pushed the front out the back and just kept going. And it'll be, I don't know if it'll ever look the same in our lifetime, but it is, and like Jake said, just getting the material is something. They would bring tractor trailers. Their they had a makeshift pole yard that looked very similar to ours. They would bring multiple poles, multiple tractor trailer loads in a day, and they were gone by the end of the day. They were unloading them that fast. They're setting them, as fast as they could, but, they would set a pole, another crew would come frame it or however they worked, which, we did a lot of the framing for them too. There was a section where it was just naked poles with material laying on the ground. So we grabbed that stretch and started to go to work on it. So, but the patience, the Jamaican people could definitely teach us a lot about patience, because they were nothing but, other than driving, they were not in a hurry to do anything.
Nope.
It was wild. We saw 4 guys playing dominoes in what used to be their house. Just they just set a canopy up and were just playing dominoes. There wasn't anything else they could do. They didn't have a house anymore.
Well, that's all the questions we have for you. That wraps up this episode of Plugged In. Our thanks to Rodney and Jacob for joining us today. We really appreciate hearing
Thank you for having me.
your
Yeah,
experience.
thank you for inviting us. Thank you so much.
I'm Rod Smirker. Thank you for tuning in to Plugged In from Quiver River Electric Cooperative. Have a topic you'd like us to cover? Share your ideas at communications@quiver.com. That's CUIVRE.com. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode.